Talofa Lava. Welcome to Pasifika Wire. In this episode, we talk to Superintendent Fata Willi Fanene, newly appointed National Partnerships Manager for Pacific Peoples for the New Zealand Police. With more than 44 years of experience on the force, the Superintendent has worked tirelessly to continue to build a strong relationship with Pasifika people. He wants to see more Pasifika enter the police force and to sustain the lines of communication between police and the wider Pasifika community, with an aim to find joint solutions to law and order in Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Whakalofa atu ia mo malu Samoa, ma motu o te esi o Pasifika. So my full name is Fata Willi Fanene. I'm Superintendent in the New Zealand Police, and my position is the National Partnerships Manager for Pacific. I'm a New Zealand-born Samoan. My parents migrated from Samoa in the late 40s. I've got 9 siblings.
Fata, we want to thank you for this opportunity and, of course, extend our congratulations to you on this exciting new role. But for you, being in the police force for more than over 40 years, tell us, what was the motivation to get you into the police force?
In my day when I left school, like many Pacific school leavers of that era, we wanted to go to university, but we also wanted to support our parents. So I looked around for a job, and the police seemed to pay well, so I applied. And I joined with the view that this would just be a stopgap measure. But after a while, I realised that this is actually my calling. And the reason why I realised this was my calling, because they didn't have very many Pacific officers there that spoke the language. And even though I was New Zealand-born Samoan, I still spoke Samoan, and we were used quite heavily to resolve domestics and other things where there were language issues. So, I realised, I think I can do quite a bit of work in this space with the police. But not only that, they also allowed me to realise my other dream, and they paid for me to go to university. I gained a law degree, and 6 years during my career, I worked as a lawyer for the police.
And you've seen it all, and you've been part of some pretty significant events that have happened in the Pasifika community. Some would say not so positive, but also some that have paved the way for where we are now.
Yeah. I mean, it has affected, it has shaped our Pacific community today. I mean, who would have thought in the early 60s when I was recently started school that a group of guys would get together and form what is now an organised criminal group called the King Cobra. And that was in the late 60s. Obviously, it didn't start off like that. They started off as just a group of guys getting together, getting the name, and, just becoming, for a long time, just a street gang, but clearly something happened, and now they're an organised criminal group, which is a shame, but it's the reality.
And for you, in your illustrious career, was it lonely being one of only a very few Pasifika that were in the force and also even studying law?
When I first joined the police, there were only a handful of Pacific male officers in police, and there were even less women. I think I can only recall 3 Pacific women that I'm aware of. And of course, as for support staff, civilian staff that supports the police, I can only remember ever meeting approximately 4 or 5 of those early days. And if you compare that today, with the number of Pacific officers total over 400, that's pretty huge. There were clearly a number of challenges when I first joined that I had difficulty dealing with, because I was one of only a handful of Pacific officers. I mean, and I think I've already alluded to one where there were only a small number of us. But secondly, when I first joined, racism was openly rife, and it's not as racist as it was back in the day.
Okay.
But it's still there, and it's an ongoing piece of work to try and identify it, call it out. But when I joined, it was openly rife. We're probably more diverse and inclusive of other ethnicities and other genders now, attitudes becoming more diverse as we get a younger generation joining the police, but you have to be always on the lookout for racism, and you've got to call it out when you see it. I wasn't able to do that in the early days because I didn't have the support around me. I wasn't confident, and I didn't want to rock the boat. But as I gained more confidence in the police and more brown faces joined the job, we began to get confident about speaking out about things like this.
Thanks for listening. That was Superintendent Fata Willi Fanene. Visit our website at www.pasifikawire.com. We welcome you to like us on Facebook, LinkedIn, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to the full podcast on Spotify. Papatai, mai e manuia.